Oh, hello everyone. You just caught me reading one of my favourite stories. A famous story that you might know already. The story of Cinderella. Can I tell you my favourite story? Well, once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl called Ella. She lived with her father, Baron Hardup, and her best friend, a servant called Buttons, in a grand old house in the country called Hardup Hall. Ella's mother had sadly passed away and her father had remarried, as he felt that Ella needed a new mother in her life. His new wife and his 2 daughters arrived at Hardup Hall. Ella's stepmother would lavish her daughters with gifts and clothes, but the family had very little money and the old house was falling apart. And Ella was forced to work every day, cleaning, mending clothes and preparing all of the family's meals. Ella's stepmother and sisters treated her very badly. After a long day of chores, poor Ella would fall asleep on the hearth of the fireplace and would wake up with soot and cinders all over her face. And that's why her stepmother would call her Cinderella. One day, Cinderella was sent out to get kindling for the fire. After a long time in the woods, gathering twigs and sticks, Cinderella came across an old woman in need of help. Without hesitation, Cinderella helped the old woman on her way, handing over everything she had. Little did Cinderella know that the old woman was actually her fairy godmother, and she had proved herself to have a true and kind heart. When Cinderella arrived home, her stepmother and sisters were dancing around with joy, as an invitation had arrived from the palace. Every eligible young lady in the kingdom was to attend a grand ball at the king's inviting to meet the prince. But Cinderella's stepmother would not let her go and ripped up her invitation into teeny tiny pieces. As her wicked stepmother and sisters left for the ball, Cinderella was left alone in the kitchen. Her best friend Buttons tried to cheer her up by making a pretend ball gown out of old rags and a coach out of the pots. It worked for a moment, but as Buttons left to go to bed, Cinderella felt very sad and began to cry. But then her fairy godmother appeared and said, "Don't cry, Cinderella. I will send you to the ball." The fairy godmother waved her magic wand and changed Cinderella's old clothes into a beautiful new gown. The fairy godmother then touched Cinderella's feet with the magic wand, and in the place of her normal shoes, she had beautiful glass slippers. "How would I go to the grand ball?" asked Cinderella. The fairy godmother found a pumpkin in the kitchen. She touched it with her magic wand and it turned into a glorious coach. Cinderella was overjoyed and set off to the ball. Before leaving, the fairy godmother said, "Cinderella, this magic will only last until midnight. You must reach home by then." When Cinderella entered the palace, everyone was struck by her beauty. Nobody, not even Cinderella's stepmother or stepsisters, knew who she really was in her pretty clothes and sparkly shoes. The handsome prince also saw her and fell in love with Cinderella. He went to her and said, "Do you want to dance?" And Cinderella said, "Yes." The prince danced with her all night, and nobody recognized the beautiful dancer. As the clock began to strike midnight, Cinderella remembered the words of her fairy godmother, and she dashed out of the door. As she ran out of the palace, one of her glass slippers came off. Oh, but Cinderella did not turn back for it. The prince had fallen in love with Cinderella and wanted to find out who the beautiful girl was. But he did not even know her name. He found the glass slipper that had come off Cinderella's foot as she ran home. The prince said, "I will find her. The lady whose foot fits this slipper will be the one I marry." The next day, the prince and his servants took the glass slipper and went to all of the houses in the kingdom. They wanted to find out whose foot would fit in the slipper. All the women in the kingdom tried the slipper on, but it would not fit any of them. Eventually, the prince arrived at the grand old house, and Cinderella's stepmother welcomed him in. Cinderella's stepsisters asked to try on the little glass slipper. They tried to squeeze their feet and push hard into the slipper, but it wasn't working. The prince asked if there were any other young ladies in the house, to which the stepmother said, "No, there's no one else here." Luckily for Cinderella, her good friend Buttons told the prince that there was, in fact, one other in the house, but the stepmother had locked her away. The prince said, "Go get this girl and let her try on the slipper." And of course, when Cinderella arrived, the slipper fit perfectly. The prince recognized her from the ball, and he married Cinderella, and together they lived happily ever after. Oh, I really do love that story. And it just goes to show Cinderella never gave up hope, and she found her happy ending. So everybody, snuggle under the covers, have a good night's sleep, and dream about wonderful things. Bye, everyone.